Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the PowerLeader podcast. In this episode, I break down the psychology of the armored leader, a deep exploration of how ego-driven leadership quietly destroys organization from the inside out. I examine how narcissistic fragility, insecurity, and the fear of being exposed shape the behavior of toxic managers. These leaders prioritize control, obedience, and emotional compliance over performance, innovation, or truth. They interpret feedback as betrayal, view emotionally intelligent employees as threats, and create environments where truth becomes dangerous. This leads to the quiet team phenomena, a culture marked by hypervigilance, self-censorship, learned helplessness, and emotional exhaustion. High performers are often isolated because their competence exposes the leader's inadequacy. Unchecked power without accountability eventually mutates into psychological warfare, eroding trust, collapsing innovation, and destroying the leadership pipeline. This episode offers a strategic, psychological, and deeply human analysis of ego-based leadership and how organizations and employees can identify it. Organizations are not collapsing because of external threats. They are collapsing from the inside out under the weight of ego-based leadership. Ego-based leadership is not loud. It is not always obvious. It does not always look like aggression or arrogance. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like control discussed as standards. Sometimes it looks like confidence masking insecurity. Sometimes it looks like a leader who cannot be questioned, cannot be challenged, and cannot be wrong. But the impact is unmistakable. Ego-based leadership is not a personality flaw. It is a psychological pattern, a predictable, measurable, and deeply destructive pattern that reshapes the entire ecosystem of an organization. To understand how ego collapses culture, innovation, and human potential, we must begin with the leader themselves. Let's talk about the anatomy of ego-driven leadership. Ego-based leadership is not a mere personality flaw, but a predictable psychological pattern rooted in insecurity and narcissistic fragility. These leaders mask their deep fears, inadequacy, exposure, loss of control, and being overshadowed behind a facade of authority and confidence. Their dominance becomes a defense mechanism, and control becomes a coping strategy to manage internal anxieties. This leads to micromanagement and an inability to empower or delegate, suffocating the organization. Emotional immaturity defines these leaders. It shows up as defensiveness, blame shifting, impulsivity, and an inability to accept feedback or apologize. This immaturity breeds instability, fear, and silence within teams. A silence often mistaken for stability, but actually a survival strategy in a traumatized culture. The insecure core is narcissistic fragility. Contrary to popular belief, ego-based leaders are not confident. They are fragile. Their authority is a shield. Their dominance is a defense mechanism. Their certainty is a mask. Underneath the surface, fear of inadequacy, fear of being exposed, fear of losing control, fear of being overshadowed. This fragility drives every decision they make. Ego-driven leaders often rise quickly due to loudness, political savvy, and impression management rather than true competence. They create a psychological ecosystem where hypervigilance, self-censorship, emotional exhaustion, and loss of initiative become normalized biological response to perceived threat, eroding identity and voice among employees. The insecure leader builds a career on someone else's brilliance. There is a moment in every toxic culture where the truth becomes impossible to ignore. It is the moment you realize a leader has held a title for years, while quietly building their entire reputation on the ideas of the very person or people they kept hidden. This is the pattern of the egoistic, fragile, narcissistic leader. They rise on borrowed brilliance. They advance on someone else's frameworks. They protect their image by suppressing the person who actually understands the work. And here is the part that reveals everything. After years of using someone's ideas to rise, the ego-driven leader still does not understand the fundamentals of their own role. They depend on the very person they try to erase. This is the paradox of the armored leader. They rise on borrowed brilliance while fearing the source of it. Why they depend on the people they isolate. Narcissistic, ego-driven leaders often rise without mastering the fundamentals of leadership. They may hold a title for years, but they often lack understanding of return of investment, strategic thinking, the ability to translate strategy into execution, cultural awareness, systems thinking, the ability to connect vision to goals, to task. They rely on impression management, not competence. They isolate the very people who see the whole system, understand strategy, can break down frameworks, can access return of investment, can connect culture to performance, can translate vision into execution. Yet, the boss uses those same people for clarity and direction. This is not coincidence. This is psychology. Ego-based leaders do not lead. They manage their anxiety through control. Control becomes their safety, their identity, their validation, and their addiction. They do not empower. They do not trust. They tighten their grip until the organization suffocates. They fear your light, your knowledge, and visibility. The moment an employee begins to rise, the armored leader panics. When you share expertise or elevate the organization's brand, strong leaders cheer you on. But the armored leader, they call you out. They threaten you. They hide behind policies that don't exist. They twist your visibility into disloyalty, not because it violates policy, but because it violates their ego. A leader who fears your visibility is a leader who has already failed. The leader who teaches what they refuse to practice. One of the most revealing traits of the armored leader is this. They weaponize leadership language long before they embody leadership behavior. They silence you for years. They block your visibility, then talk about transparency. They steal your ideas, then call it strategy. They destroy your career, then use your feedback to look enlightened. This is not leadership. This is opportunism wrapped in a title. A leader without integrity becomes a boss with authority but no moral foundation. A leader who cannot self-reflect becomes a barrier to the culture they claim to build. A leader who relies on someone else's brilliance while suppressing that person's growth becomes the architect of a toxic environment. And here is the truth every healthy organization must face. You cannot build a strong culture under a leader who refuses to do the inner work. Leadership is not about communication skills. It's not about titles. It's not about visibility. Leadership is about character. It is about accountability. It is about ethics and integrity. It is about the courage to grow before asking others to grow. When a leader talks about transformation but avoids transformation themselves, they reveal exactly who they are. An ego-driven, fragile, armored leader, not builder of culture, but an ambassador of toxicity, the kind of authority that silently erodes growth, innovation, psychological safety, and the organization future. As we close today's episode, I want to leave you with this truth. Toxic leadership is not a personality issue. It is an organizational threat, and every company, every team, every leader has a responsibility to recognize it before it takes root. To the organization listening, if you want to protect your culture, your innovation, and your future, you must learn to identify toxic, ego-driven leaders early. Look beyond titles. Look beyond confidence. Look beyond performance reports. Pay attention to the patterns, the silence, the fear, the turnover, the shrinking of strong voices. These are not people problems. These are leadership problems. And ignoring them is a choice with the consequences. To the employees listening, be aware of the environments you are in. Pay attention to the leaders who silence truth, punish feedback, or isolate the very people who carry clarity and competence. Pay attention to the cultures where visibility is treated as threat, where obedience is mistaken for loyalty, and where psychological safety is replaced with fear. These are not normal dynamics. They are warning signs. And to everyone who has ever been targeted, isolated, or diminished by an armored leader, your clarity was never the problem. Your competence was never the threat. Your emotional intelligence was never the weakness. You were simply in the presence of someone who feared what you revealed. This series is not just about naming toxic leadership. It is about helping you to recognize it, navigate it, and rise above it. And we are just getting started. In the next episode, I will reveal the remaining psychological characteristics of toxic, ego-driven leaders, the subtle behaviors, the hidden patterns, and the emotional signatures that help you identify them long before their damage begins. You will learn how to spot them, how to protect yourself, and how to prepare for the environments they create. Because awareness is power and preparation is protection. Thank you for joining me today. This is the Power Leader podcast, where we build leaders who lead with clarity, courage, and emotional intelligence. I'll see you in the next episode. Signing off, Dia.